Welcome, everybody, to the War Party Podcast with me, your host, Chris Warren. So happy to be back for another episode, guys. This last week's been a little crazy, and I know I kind of kept a secret from you guys that's now out there. I did, in fact, do a Jubilee video, if you saw that. For those that don't know, Jubilee is this big kind of media conglomerate on YouTube and social media. And I just want to take a minute before we get into the news to kind of talk about that, because a lot of you have DM'd me with questions about that. So for those that don't know, basically what happened is about a month ago, Jubilee reached out to me from my social media. I guess they had seen me out there and asked me if I wanted to participate in a video called, I think it was at the time, 20 American citizens versus a U.S. state representative on the Epstein files. And they ended up releasing it with the name 20 Epstein critics, which I get it. Clickbait title. And there were a couple people that genuinely were like Epstein files critics, which was fucking nuts to watch. Go watch the video. Here's the thing. It was such a crazy video because I was the least crazy person there. I was like the most normal, calm person there. That's what was going on in that room. But basically, I went down to Washington, D.C., which was fun. They brought me out there, and I went around. I saw the Lincoln Memorial at night. That was sick. And the Washington Monument. I walked around the reflecting pool, which, funnily enough, actually, a buddy of mine's ashes, there's a little bit of his ashes in the reflecting pool. So that was good to kind of go pay respects to the homie. Pour one out for him, say hi. I went to the World War II Memorial, and I obviously went to the Connecticut part, the little Connecticut state part of those pillars. It's like a big circle with pillars, and I saluted the Connecticut monument because, we served our country in World War II. Love my home state. But anyway, long story short, I go to this big warehouse on the edge of D.C. in northeast D.C., and it's like an 8-hour shoot day, and we get there, and they tell us that, because they didn't tell us who the state representative was. I personally thought it was going to be Thomas Massie. I was kind of excited for that. It ended up, we didn't find out till we were sitting in the circle and Ro Khanna walks out, who is the Democrat Congressman for Silicon Valley. And he walks out there, and it's kind of like the setup where they have different claims that he'll make, and then people go argue with him, I guess. And that's not why I was there. As you know, I'm not super interested in domestic policy, in domestic politics. I'm more of like a geopolitical guy, a foreign policy guy. The only really domestic policy I care about is what policy will affect America's ability to project power on the global stage and influence other countries and bring the global economy to us, which I've been over many times. And quite frankly, the reason I only care about foreign policy is I've kind of given up on domestic policy changing anything. And I don't want to be like a doomer with that, but just the inherent structural system in America is so flawed at this point, unfortunately, that I don't think there's a ton you can realistically do with electing politicians. And even the choices they give you are not going to be the ones to do it. So I don't get so worried about domestic policy because I'm at the end of the day, they're going to spend my tax money on shit I don't want them to spend it on. And they're not going to do anything to help the American people. And ironically, both sides will argue so much, Republicans and Democrats. And it's you're both kind of right. The complaints that both of you have about society or how government spending or lack thereof is going and what the government's doing, for the most part, you're both correct. That's how flawed our our government focused on stateside stuff, on domestic policy is that you both have a laundry list of complaints, and about 80% of them on both the Republican and Democrat side are correct. You're arguing over stupid. You're both right. It is fucked in both the ways you are saying it is fucked. And that's why I don't see a lot of solutions coming from legislation or anything like that, So my goal is to like focus on geopolitics and foreign policy because that's more clear cut and dry. There is a more clearly like a right and a wrong move for America to make to keep global supremacy or project power in any given situation. And there's a lot less kind of like emotions or morals involved with that because it's just kind of like chess. It's like, it is what it is. We got to go do this or we got to prevent this. So that's why I talk about that more. And really my goal is to just look at that and hope for the best, that American foreign policy can be strong enough, which it hasn't been recently, which we've covered a ton here, much to my chagrin, much to my constant dismay and crying. And that will leverage enough power, hopefully in a fantasy land one day where a neocon or a again, people call me a neocon, I'm not really a neocon, like a Kissinger-like figure will come to power and be able to reflect so much wealth and prosperity and power into America that even with the politicians robbing us and misappropriating tax funds and kind of screwing us at every turn, that we will have such a strong economy compared to the rest of the world that we'll still be able to have a decent standard of living for our people in spite of all the inherent flaws in the system. So that's why I think that's a better a more realistic solution than being like, we're gonna talk about how we're gonna use this program or cut that program, and we're gonna get money out of politics. Listen, I don't even disagree with you. I think a lot of that stuff is great. Not gonna happen. Anytime the U.S. government makes you feel as a citizen that you have won, that we the citizenry have won because like XYZ bill gets passed and we got XYZ or they stopped doing ABC, whatever it is, that's the win they're willing to give you. That's the win they're allowing you to have as like a crumb so you don't lose your minds. The fact that they're letting you have that win means the win wasn't that big, and most likely they snuck something else in that bill that is like horrendous and horrible and is so much worse than anything you've gained. You've lost so much more than you've gained. So that's why I don't really get into the mire of domestic politics, because I just it's kind of just all the lesser of two evils with any given choice. Like, they're never going to give, like, the Senate and Congress are never going to get together, and then the executive branch, all the branches of government are never going to get together and be like, okay, well, this is how we figured out how to fix all the schools in America so that every American has access to like a good start in life with a good education, and this is how we're going to fix crime, and this is how we're going to fix the drug crisis, and this is how we're going to reform jails, and like this is how we're going to keep all the waterways and nature and endangered species like clean and free and like protect our environment. And, this is how we're going to fix the economy, make sure every American's making the equivalent of like $100,000 a year in terms of quality of life. And this is how we're going to get you health insurance and childcare. And it's all going to work out. That's not their goal. You're never getting any of that shit. I'm sorry. I would love it. I would love for us to have good public schools and affordable healthcare and childcare and like have no one living in destitute poverty. Truly. Like, as an American, I want that for my fellow Americans. All right? Not going to happen. Probably not going to happen with the government structure we have right now. So to sit there and have Republicans and Democrats argue over what's the best way to make the standard of living for Americans better, because that's usually kind of at the crux of what they're arguing. There's a lot of like weird social issues they get into that's more like emotions driven, but like the logical arguments they have of like they'll debate back and forth of like how we're going to fix healthcare. Like the Democrats will say, oh, we need to figure out a way to have like universal or like subsidized healthcare from the government. And then the Republicans will be like, no, we got to figure out a way to make private care more affordable and because it's like a more efficient system, and we got to take these regulations to allow it to do it. The thing is, like, both the arguments, or we need to make healthcare better and more affordable. Now they're arguing about how to do that, whether we do that through government subsidies or like course correcting how private industry works, right? They're arguing over how to do it, but the goal for both of them is to get every American affordable, good quality healthcare. And the answer is, guys, that's a stupid argument, because realistically, we're never getting affordable, good quality healthcare for all Americans. And it doesn't matter if we socialize it and have a government-ran system like a lot of European countries do. That will not work. It doesn't matter if we try to reform the private sector and like take off regulations and do all these things to make the private sector more efficient and give us better quality care and cheaper care, that's not going to work either. There's no way in which Congress ever truly cares about you getting good health care. And you can say that for pretty much any argument Democrats and Republicans have with each other. They always think they're arguing about two vastly different things. And the answer is no. You're arguing over how to, you both want to fix the same problem. Usually, like 80% of the time. You both want to fix the same problem, and you're just arguing over methodology on how to fix it. You usually want relatively the same result. You're just arguing over what method or practice or change is going to lead to that result, and you get so mad at each other because you're like, their way of getting there is actually going to make it worse, and our way is going to fix everything. And the answer is, we're not fixing most of the problems, guys. I'm sorry. We've had the opioid crisis going on for over 20 years now, and politicians. And that one's close to me as an addict. To be fair, I wasn't an opioid addict, but I have sympathy for all addicts of any kind. And so it's like, I've watched the opioid crisis destroy my generation as a millennial and like really like kill and ruin the lives of many people I knew when I was younger. And politicians will like talk about it like, oh, we need to do something about the opioid crisis, or this is our initiative to fix the opioid crisis. And it has genuinely not gotten any better. 25 to 26 years, whatever it's been, of them talking about it every election cycle, putting through a bullshit bill of like having safe shoot up sites or adding like 100 beds to a rehab in a city. And it does nothing to fix the core problem that like the opioid crisis is a societal scale problem that we need to like adjust all of society to actually fix. But they don't want to do that. They want the points for like, look, I went to one shelter in Baltimore and we got them an extra $100,000 of funding every year from the city budget. And hey, that's good. That helps the addicts in Baltimore. But even for Baltimore's problem, $100,000 to one clinic is probably not going to really fix anything. Realistically. Not that you shouldn't do good things just because it's not going to fix the whole problem. You should still try to do your small part. But like the government doing that is fucking insulting. And that's my rant about why I don't really worry about domestic policy, because it's either shit you're arguing about you wanting the same results and don't even realize you're on the same team, or it's arguing over some stupid social issue. And not to minimize, because I guess some people get very upset about social issues, but it's like, it's just, you're just arguing over wanting to enforce your morality on the rest of the country. And both sides will accuse the other ones of doing it. But the left and the right, they both have their own like codex of what morality is for social issues. And they want to enforce that on everyone else in the country. And I'm a big believer that I don't think we should legislate morality, whether it's kind of like the woke, inclusive kind of morality they try to enforce on things, or if it's the right side's like Christian, old school traditional values they want to enforce on everybody. It's like we should keep the morality to like don't do things that are objectively horrible, like murder and steal and assault people and all that stuff. You know, all the basic things we need to have a functioning society. And then outside of that, like however you want to live your life, live your life. Like I'm a very religious, traditional dude. I know that I won't say works for me because I think that's disingenuous. I know I'm right. I'll be honest with you. I know I'm right. I know that the way you should live is with an adherence to God through an Abrahamic faith and kind of practice those principles and be an upstanding person and be a person of substance in those principles from the Bible. I'm not going to do the thing where I'm like, that just works for me, but do whatever you want. It's like, that's disingenuous. No, I know that's correct. I know that's the right way to live because God told me. But if you don't want to live that way, that's okay. Like, truly, I'm not going to say I don't judge you for it because everyone's judgmental. Of course, on some level, I judge you for it because I think you're wrong, right? Again, I'm not trying to be dick. I'm just being honest. I'm not going to do that disingenuous thing where I, like, pretend to be more open-minded than I am because everyone does that bullshit. But no, like, if you want to go live a debaucherous life and, like, do a bunch of drugs and sleep with a bunch of people and watch porn all day and do all that, right? That's your business. Like, truly, I don't really care. That's none of my business. You want to live that way? Go live that way. All right? I have no need to enforce my traditional religious values on you if that's not what you want to do. I definitely don't think the government should be trying to do that to you. Listen, I might not respect you going to an orgy at the furry convention. I might be a little closed-minded to that. But if the government tries to stop you from doing that, I'm out there defending you. I'm like, yeah, no, they're like gross heathens doing horrible, unspeakable acts. But like, this is a free country. They're allowed to do that, right? So that's my little tangent on domestic policy, because a lot of you guys always ask, well, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on that? The answer is America, we're past the tipping point. We're fucked. Our society's fucked. Our structural system for government's fucked. Everything's fucked. So why argue with someone until you're red in the face about it when it's over? It's over. It's over. The only answer is to try to focus on foreign policy that will hopefully preserve enough of America's power and wealth to slow the decline into a third world country. And that's my goal. And again, guys, you don't try to like enforce your beliefs on other people. America's the great experiment of like freedom of thought and expression, religion and ideas. So go do your thing. Go do your thing. You're all are welcome on this podcast. Again, if you want to go live a life that I would personally consider like morally backwards and abhorrent, as long as you're not like going out there and like murdering people and forcing it on other people, right? You're allowed to what I would view as self-harm yourself as much as you want. If you want to tear apart your soul by living a life like that, that is 100% your business. Right? And again, I'm not going to be disingenuous and say no judgment. I am judging you a little bit, but I don't hate you for it. I have tons of friends who I 1000% do not respect their lifestyle. That doesn't mean I don't respect them as a person or love them or find beautiful parts about them that can bring positivity and good things to my life. It's important to have friends of different beliefs and lifestyles. That's what makes the world go round. We can disagree on things. Ultimately, when we die, we'll figure out who was right, and it probably won't really matter. Like this like kind of moralizing we do as humans on this plane of existence is probably small fries compared to what's going on up in the heavenly realm, you know, to that notion. But yeah, you know, just love everyone. Let them live their life. Let them do what they want to do. Don't be a dick about it. Don't try to force your morals on them. Because also from the other end, it's like I wouldn't want them forcing morals on me, right? So it's like let's just respect each other. We can disagree on some things. That doesn't. Also with the living like lives that I don't think are necessarily moral, right? I don't know. I don't always. How do I put it? I don't necessarily think that makes you a bad person, right? Like I was saying, like if you want to like go out there and live that way, you can still kind of like be a good person. I think you're not living in alignment with what God wants for you at your highest point, but that doesn't like make you a bad person. Like you can still be very good to me and the people around you and live a life, right? So I just want to be clear on that. And also I just want to clear up right now because I feel like people might be misinterpreting what I'm saying here. I am not talking about gay people. Just want to be real clear on that. Love gay people. I don't think there's really anything wrong with being gay. I think people that get on their podium about how like being gay is evil or God doesn't want you to do that are kind of retarded. I'm going to be real. Because yes, in the Bible, it does allude to the fact, I think it says man shall not lie with man for it's an abomination, right? Like, or as he does with women, it's an abomination. Okay, that's definitely in there. You know what else is in there? Thou shalt not spill their seed in vain. And if you've ever jerked off before, because the commandments outside of the top 10, the big dogs, are not really ordered in terms of importance. So it's like, perceivably, jerking off is spilling your seed in vain. That's just as bad, quote unquote, as having full-blown unprotected sex with another man. They're the same level of sin or whatever you want to call it. So it's like, why are we, and same thing with using birth control, pulling out during sex, having sex before marriage, period. That includes blowjobs, hand jobs. In the biblical sense, that's all considered sex. So it's like, it's just weird to me when I see some, and I have Christian friends who I love dearly, they'll be really weird about the gay issue, quote unquote. They'll be like, oh, you shouldn't be gay. It's a sin and it's morally wrong. And it's like, hey, man, don't you live with your girlfriend who's on birth control and you guys fuck all the time and you're not married and been together for several years? Isn't that kind of like just like in your biblical view of the world actually almost even worse? Aren't you like actually almost like you're by your own definition of we should follow exactly what the Bible says? You're actually sinning more. You're being worse. So I just think that shit's bullshit. Also, there's an argument that talking about homosexuality in the Bible is actually talking about men graping each other. That's what they mean by that you shouldn't grape. I hate how I have to say that, but the algorithm, whatever, I'm paranoid. It's like that's more what it's talking about, which, yeah, I think we can all agree that that's bad. Shouldn't be doing that to anyone, man, woman, whatever. You shouldn't be doing that. So I think we can all agree on that one. And there's a whole kind of theological, I can't get too into it. I'm already on such a tangent. Theological argument that's what that's talking about, not like consensual stuff. Also, weirdly in the Bible, no problem with lesbianism. That doesn't really come up. I think it's really funny that one doesn't come up. Just for the female equivalent in the Bible is that a woman shall not lie with a beast, meaning that women shouldn't fuck like dogs and donkeys and horses. So I think that's funny that it's like, dudes, don't sleep with each other. Women, you guys can do whatever you want, but stay away from the horse. It's just funny. That's just because I just wanted to be clear. I don't want someone to like clip that up and misinterpret what I'm saying is like, oh, Chris said he's religious and traditional values. That means he hates gay people. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay. Go be gay. Have fun. Live your life. Enjoy yourself. You know, I love you guys. And same with trans people. I know every once in a while people think I have a problem with trans people for some reason. I love trans people. I don't have a problem with trans people. You know, sorry, I put his in. I have a family. They're kind of private, so I won't say more than that. I have family member who's trans, and I love them dearly. I talk to them all the time. I'm not a good ally because I have no idea what's going on with that, and quite frankly, it freaks me out. I get a little freaked out about it because it's a big change for me, knowing this person as a man for so long, and then all of a sudden they're a woman. That's a hard transition for me. But I try my best. I try my best to get in there and be supportive, okay? Because it's, again, do what you want with your life. Do what you want with your life. My issue with that family member is not that they're trans. It's that they're an atheist. That's the big issue. That's the bigger issue for me than them wanting to identify as female. I could really give less of a shit about that. That's kind of just semantics at that point. Do whatever you want. But have you thought about reading your Bible, though? Have you talked to God recently? That's more where I'm at. You know, so yeah, guys, because I've been seeing this a little bit in the comments. I've been getting some weird DMs from some, like, I guess what you call far-right accounts, although I think that term's kind of a psyop. Gay people are cool and fine. Trans people are cool and fine. Women are also cool and fine. This is a good shot. Minorities, also cool and fine. So yeah, that was a huge off-topic tangent. Sorry about that. Had to get all that out. But to all the listeners, we love you. We love you, and live your life. It's America. Do what you want. I am probably judging you a little bit, but I don't hate you for it. Still love you, bud. But yeah, back to the Jubilee video, because we got so far off on a tangent. I apologize. It was my birthday a couple days ago, and so I allowed myself the pleasure of smoking cigarettes, because I quit cigarettes a couple years ago, and now I do the Zins. But on my birthday, I allowed myself to, on birthdays, maybe Christmas, the little holidays, I allow myself some ciggies. 4th of July, the big ones. And I was chain smoking, and it was so good. Cigarettes are so much better. I forgot how much better cigarettes are than Zyn. But I also forgot how fucking sick cigarettes make me feel. Like, I feel like I'm recovering from the flu. I have brain fog. My sinuses are all fucked up. I'm, like, tired. I couldn't sleep. So that's why we only do cigarettes a couple times a year, and I have no self-control. So in a day, I smoked. Like, I went from not having smoked a cigarette in about a year to smoking a full pack in like one sitting because I was just chain smoking. I'm like, it's my birthday, I can have another one. And yeah, so that's why I'm where I'm at today. But back to the Jubilee video. So I go there, we're in the circle. Congressman Ro Khanna, the Democrat congressman for Silicon Valley, comes out, and they do all these claims and people are making all these claims and all these, I don't want to be mean because everyone was actually very nice. All these, let's say traditionally left and right people are asking such partisan questions. Like all the Republicans are doing like oh yeah, you care about the Epstein files now. Why didn't you release them earlier? And why are you so focused on Trump? What about the Clintons? They're on there too. And it's like, guys, I think they should all be investigated and thrown in jail. So I don't think we need to pick and choose what side. We should go after all of them. How about that? How about we unite on this one and we go after all of the child abusers? Why is this a partisan issue? Like your argument is basically, our child abusers aren't as bad as your child abusers. Ours are actually kind of chill, which is retarded. You guys are retarded. And then the Democrats kind of did like a similar thing with kind of like just a lot of them tried to shift completely away from the question and just talk about like other party line Democrat talking issues, or give Ro super softballs, and that was lame too. Like both the partisan people were lame. There was one guy, I forget his name, I apologize, that just went up and talked about like affordability in America. And then he kind of, and about money and politics and how we need to stop that. And shouts out to him because he just did that, like completely bipartisan, was just like, yeah, I think we need to get money out of politics on both sides. And like, we need to make America more affordable for people. And him and Ro had like a nice conversation. Highly recommend you check him out. I think he was like the second or third person to go up. And then he was like, yeah, I'd like to cede the rest of my time. I'm good. I just wanted to get that out there. Shouts out, that man came in with a mission, no political agenda. He wanted to speak for the American people. I talked to him a little bit at the filming. He was a chill dude. He's just a normal guy from like Pennsylvania that came down to just speak his piece. So shouts out to him. He was not a lunatic, which was rare in that room. But when it got to me, I was gonna shoehorn in my answer, guys, or my question rather. I knew what I was gonna talk about, so I go in. And I go, and the question is on, like, should Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who we've talked about on this podcast before, should he resign? And I did kind of not ask it on topic. I kind of shoehorned in what I really wanted to talk about, like it was on topic, but I kind of, blurred the line there. And I go, something to you can go watch it. I don't want to misquote myself because it's been like a month since we shot that. But I basically asked, like, Howard Lutnick, had this close relationship with Epstein, which we've talked about, I think, even last episode on this podcast or the episode before, so I won't go into all that again about him lying about going to the island, all that stuff. But he was close to Epstein, and Epstein was close to Ehud Barak, who, first I just said Howard Lutnick was close to Epstein, and do you think that Howard Lutnick is maybe an Israeli Mossad access asset into the White House, and that Israel's been using Epstein as an access agent to get access to all these rich, influential politicians, celebrities, tech bros, financial guys, the wealthy kind of movers and shakers of American society, to skew foreign policy into a protectionist stance of Israel trapping us in the Middle East forever against our own best interest. And it was silent for a second, and I look over at his PR team, because he had like an 8-person PR team. They were all very nice. And I look over at the head lady, and I'm like, you can see me on the camera. I kind of look over to the side. I'm like, are they going to cut my mic now? Am I going to get escorted out? Did I just fuck up? And she kind of like, she gives a nod. If you're watching this, you can see she kind of gives like a, yeah. Like basically, keep going. And I was like, oh shit, they're going to let me talk about this. That's crazy. All right, so shouts out to Ro Khanna's PR team for letting me go off the rails there. And then I started connecting Howard Lutnick to Epstein, and Epstein to Ehud Barak, who, again, we've talked about. I don't want to, like, retread that water. I've talked about it on this podcast. You can go watch it. I think it was, like, 3 episodes ago. And, kind of their work to get a security package, quote-unquote, really more like a spy package, a military intelligence package in the Ivory Coast, and keep that dictator in charge. They did a similar thing in Mongolia, and those are the 2 kind of proven ones. There's allegations they did them in other places, but those are the 2 that, like, we have evidence for. And I kind of went down that pathway, and to Ro Khanna's credit, I want to give credit where credit is due. He was kind of like, he gave kind of a political answer, but he also gave like a real answer. He was like, well, I'm a facts-based guy. And again, I want to misquote him. Go watch the episode. I'm only in it for like 6 minutes. I'm at like the 52-minute mark. Scrub forward to that if you want to see. He's like, well, I'm a facts-based guy, and I don't know the answer to that, but it's definitely suspicious, and we should definitely look into that and investigate that. And I was like, oh, shit. All right, Ro Khanna. all right, because I was expecting him to do the shut it down thing that politicians do, but he kind of let me cook. So shouts out. I'm not making a statement on anything else he's done. I'm just saying in that moment, pretty chill, bro. And, then he asked me, are you worried about getting called anti-Semitic about this? Because whenever I talk about the genocide in Gaza or criticize the Israeli government, I get accused of being anti-Semitic. And that's when I had to hit him with my ace up my sleeve, my Blue Eyes White Dragon I've been waiting to put on the table. I just got the last piece of Exodia. I'm about to win the game. I go, actually, Ro, I'm a religiously practicing Jew, so it does put me in an awkward position. But I don't feel that we should be giving preferential treatment to any country that is not to America's benefit, including Israel. And while I love my fellow Jews all over the world, because we're all Jews, we're connected. But yeah, I don't think that gives you a green light to go around doing horrible things and like genocide the Palestinians and compromise the U.S. government and our foreign policy and put America's global position at risk. That I don't think just because we're both Jews, that gives that I'm going to back you on that, dude. I'm Team America. You can fuck right off with that. And I also want to be clear, there's a lot of American Jews that agree with me. They're quieter about it than I am because it is kind of like a touchy subject in the community. But yeah, a lot more Jews than you'd expect are right there with us on that mindset that like it's about America. I don't know why I have to have this weird loyalty to this country on the other side of the world that I don't speak the language. I wasn't born there. I have nothing to do with that country. And at the same time, I want to be clear, like, I also have Israeli friends that I love very dearly. They're good people. It's like even the people in Israel, more than the media would allow you to believe, a lot of them don't agree with what Israel's doing and don't love what's going on. So don't assign group blame to entire groups of people is what I'm trying to say. I didn't say that part to Ro Khanna. I got off on a little bit of a tangent there. But yeah, no, and Ro Khanna and me then had a conversation about affordability in America, how it's like, why are we focused on sending all this money overseas and fighting these wars that don't benefit America when, like, I don't have health care like we were talking about earlier. I can't buy a house. I went to college and did all the right things, and I can barely afford my life, and that's the feeling a lot of Americans have. So that was it was a short conversation with Ro Khanna, but he was pretty cool. Again, he's like a politician, so you never know. He did kind of charm me, I'll be honest, and that's kind of like politicians' job. But it was really cool, so thank you to Ro Khanna and his media team for allowing me to ask some crazy questions and for being a pretty chill bro about it and having like a good, interesting conversation with me. It wasn't confrontational or a debate or an argument. We just had a very pleasant conversation, which is more than I can say for a lot of the conversations that happened during that video. So thank you to Ro and his team. Thank you to Jubilee for having me. And it was genuinely a very fun experience. Now, a lot of people, some people, I don't want to exaggerate, some people DM'd me and were upset that, like, why didn't you ask Ro Khanna about this? Or did you know this about him? Or he took funding from this? Or he passed this bill? And, like, again, I'm not focused on domestic policy. And they didn't give me any time to research. I didn't know it was Ro Khanna till, like, we were in the room together, so I didn't have time to like pull up my phone and Google like, what has this guy done? So yeah, and that's not why I was there. I was there to bring more, I guess, attention to the truth, which is that Epstein was clearly a Mossad Axis agent and did great harm by compromising large portions of our society and government. And to Jubilee's credit, when they did the fact check, because I was one of the only people that got a fact check, it comes up on like the side of the video, and all the fact checks were like, yeah, no, he's right. That did actually happen. That did actually happen. The only one they kind of pushed back on me with was that, well, Ehud Barak was the president of Israel and he was the head of the IDF, but there's no quote unquote evidence that he was involved in any sort of Mossad schemes, despite his close connection to the Israeli government with all that power and his recorded connection with Epstein. And the Israeli government has denied these claims because obviously Israel, we asked Israel and they said, no, we're not doing that. So that's the fact check on that one. So that was the only one I'll push back on. But the rest of the fact checks were pretty fair and basically shed light on the fact that I was saying factual things that have been reported, albeit underreported and underknown, or true things that are out there that are not as much conspiracy as some people might want you to believe. So that was that. I also got a lot of fallout from that. I had a couple more pro-Israel, shall we say, friends kind of unfollow me and send me some nasty messages, and that's too unfortunate. No one close. Everyone close in my life was very happy for me and supportive. But there were a few like people I kind of knew, I was friendly with, more acquaintances that have since burned that bridge with me, or think that I have burned that bridge, rather. I guess the bridge is gone. That's unfortunate over what I think is like, again, I'm big on people with differing opinions should get together and talk, and like you should get insight from people that think of the world differently and not, as I've said in the past, like I think my opinion's correct again, but like if you think I was horribly wrong on that, you shouldn't judge me by my worst opinion. Like, are there not other redeeming qualities that led you to like me in the first place? Can you not still benefit from me in your life and having me as a friend in those other capacities, and just accept there's like a couple issues we disagree on and we'll just choose to not really talk about those if we can't be mature about it, and that's okay? I have tons of friends like that where there are a couple issues where one or more of or both of us can't be mature about the conversation because we disagree so heavily on it, and so we just don't talk about that topic. And then, wouldn't you know it, the rest of the friendship is great because we have a lot of other things in common and we really enjoy each other's company. And I can only speak for myself, but I view them as very good, upstanding people that I trust and love and respect. So it's like I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, we can't talk anymore because we disagree on the Second Amendment or something, which, by the way, I'm very pro. I know I've skewed a little liberal in the beginning of the podcast. I want to come back to center. Very pro. Like, I cannot have a mature conversation about the Second Amendment. I think I should be able to own a fucking tank, and everyone should shut the fuck up about that. So there's some friends that are very anti-gun that we've just agreed we can't talk about that, and that's okay. I don't judge them for them being completely wrong about the Second Amendment. I mean, I do judge them, but like I'm not judging the rest of their character as like a moral, upstanding person or someone I want to have in my life, because that'd be ridiculous. That'd be stupid and short-sighted and closed-minded, and that's not how you want to live your life. Now, in terms of the fallout also, this is funny, and this is not, I promise this isn't a bit, this is real. I'm now being evicted from my apartment, and they claim it's because they're kicking all the tenants out to do a renovation on the apartment, and it's going to take months, and so I have to go find another place to live, and that kind of makes sense, because I've had a sweetheart deal here, and I think they want to renovate it so they can fix up the apartments, they said, and sell them, basically rent them out for more money. And that makes sense. But then you put together the timeline that the Ro Khanna video released on Sunday, and then I got this information on Wednesday, which funnily enough was my birthday. So it's very funny that on my birthday I got an eviction notice in my mailbox. And I called my landlord, and they told me the whole thing about renovating the apartment. I was like, all right, fine. I'm not going to argue with you. You want me out, I'll just move. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'll just move. I live in a place where there's lots of places to live. So it's like it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to have to move far away. I'm really going to just move a town or two over probably. But then I went up, because there's only one other tenant in my building because we're above a business. And I went up and I asked him, like, hey, like, did you hear we're getting evicted? He's like, I'm not getting evicted. What are you talking about? And I showed him the notice. I'm like, I got a notice. And he's like, I didn't get that. I'm like, check your mailbox. And so we went down to his mailbox, and he didn't have it in there. And he's like, they didn't, because also the landlords called me to tell me to go check my mailbox for an eviction notice. He's like, I didn't get a call or email from them. I don't see an eviction notice. I'm not getting evicted. So conveniently, I guess they're not renovating the whole building, just conveniently the unit I live in to evict me, and not to enforce stereotypes. But my landlords are Orthodox Jews. And I think it's really interesting that my Orthodox Jewish landlords, 3 days after a very public, highly viewed video of me talking to a U.S. state representative being critical of Israel, have decided to evict me. That's just interesting. I don't want to get conspiratorial. That's just kind of interesting to me. And kind of related to that, a lot of people have been in my DMs. A lot of you guys, the followers, have reached out to me about this, and I appreciate that. A lot of people in my life immediately texted and called me, and they're like, hey, you got to put out a video right now that says you want to be alive and that you would never end it. All right? You got to put that out right now, because Mossad's going to kill you, right? They're going to at least think about it. You should really get some evidence out there that you don't want to die. And I appreciate those concerns, but I respect my audience. I respect you, the followers, and that's why I don't want to lie to you guys. No, I'm just kidding. I'm very happy. I was kind of in that headspace a couple of years ago, but like the last 2 or 3 years, I've been good. I've been loving life. I've been feeling good. I think for me, I just needed to get sober, and not that instantly solved it, But I got sober, I was able to like structurally look at my life and address a lot of other things I've been ignoring, because you can't really fix your life or your mental state if all you're doing is waking up hungover and then drinking and smoking weed and taking Xanax and doing coke all day. You're never gonna get to a point where you can like sit down and solve things. So once I was able to get that out of the way, then I was able to focus on my mental health and like fix my life and my perspective and all these other things. And now I'm very happy. Quite frankly, life's not perfect, obviously, but I'm a pretty happy guy. I'm 32 now after my birthday, and I could be in a better place in life, but I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty well adjusted. But I do like to think that the Mossad agent that has been assigned to silence me was like in Tel Aviv, flipping through the information they have on me, flipping through the files, and he found the paperwork for me getting committed to a psych ward in 2022 against my will because people in my life thought I was a danger to myself. And so it was a whole thing. I think I've talked about it in the You Should Be Worried podcast, but I'll reiterate. I was handcuffed by the police, showed up to my door. And I had a long kind of like, not a standoff, a violent standoff, but a standoff of like, what the fuck, I'm not going with you. And they're like, listen, but by the time, once we're here, you're going. You're getting in the ambulance. That's why we're here. This isn't optional. You're being sectioned. This is not up to you. So you can get in the ambulance with us, or we can handcuff you and put you in the ambulance. And they were very nice. The cops were very nice. And they did eventually talk me into getting the ambulance. I was kind of handcuffed at one point. It was a whole thing. But, they didn't press any charges. They understood I was mentally ill, so they were nice about it. And they put me in the ambulance. I went to the psych ward for like 3 days against my will, and it was a whole kind of very weird. I can do a whole episode on that. That was a very weird 3 days. I had a kind of like a very like a movie-like experience in the psych ward. But if I ever have a TV show, that'll be an episode. But yeah, so I like to think the Mossad guy saw that paperwork and was like, Charlie in the motherfucking chocolate factory. He was like, I got a golden ticket. I got a golden ticket. Chris is going to shoot himself in the head 3 times. And everyone will believe it because he has a history of mental illness. Shalom. So that's what I think's happening in the Connects right now. Although maybe I'm exaggerating my importance. Really, I'm not that big of a guy online. I don't think they actually care. But it is interesting. I'm getting evicted out of my apartment after years of being a tenant here with literally 0 issues. My landlords love me. I'm a pretty easy tenant. I pay rent on time. I don't damage the place. I don't cause problems. It's whatever. Evidently, conveniently, maybe it's serendipitous. Maybe it's just the stars aligning. Though 3 days after I make some statements that I would venture to guess they probably wouldn't agree with, all of a sudden, I am out of my apartment. So thanks Benjamin Netanyahu for that. Now I got to go fucking apartment search, and that's going to take up my time. That's annoying. I didn't want to do that. And now, as with every episode, I've gotten on so many tangents that were unrelated to the news. None of that was really news. That was all personal stuff and opinion-based and all that stuff. But we'll now get into the news. So sorry, I think like the first half hour of this is going to be me ranting. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed saying it. I'm kind of losing my voice because I smoked all those cigarettes and now I'm screaming a bunch. The Strait of Hormuz, it was blockaded, and that was a whole issue. And so Trump in his infinite wisdom with his cabinet have decided to double blockade it. And that, in the whole thing, we're supposed to get it unblockaded. And okay, it does sound stupid on paper, and it is stupid. That's not what I would have done personally. But there is some argument to it because I want to be fair. We don't want to give straw man arguments for the opposing side. We want to give steel man the enemy's argument. That's how you grow as a person to learn, right? So the steel man argument for this, which does kind of make sense, is that Iran is blocking the U.S. and U.S. allies' oil tankers from going in and out of the Strait of Hormuz, right? So we don't really have regular access to our oil. A couple ships get in and out, but it's not like we need the normal flow. But Iran's been letting its ally ships go in and out just fine. Like China oil shipments are getting through there, no problem. A couple other countries like that are kind of pro-Iran in this whole thing. And so the U.S. is now doing a second blockade at the end of the strait to, if the Chinese ships got through the Iranians, we're now stopping them. So now nobody's getting in and out of the Strait of Hormuz, which, kind of a good middle finger to China. But I don't think it helps the world economy to reduce the oil make the oil shortages worse. I don't know how much pressure it really puts on Iran, and it does seem to be antagonizing China, which, you know me, I'm a big China war hawk, but like I don't know that this helps right now with the position we're in, where we're stretched and we've used our ordnance and we're stuck in the Middle East to antagonize China to oppose us in maybe the Pacific, where we're not as strong at the moment and don't have the capacity to full force go defend. So I'm not sure that's the best move right now, but I do kind of want to give credit where credit's due. I do kind of understand the logic behind it. It's not like there's no argument for it. I just don't think it's the best move at this point, at this venture. Now, that being said, several people have been messaging me. There's this whole thing going around that, Chris, actually, say if you look at like a map of where oil tankers go, since they've closed the strait, now a bunch more oil tankers are coming to America. So they changed the oil market forever, and now it's going to be focused on us. And listen, I would love that to be true. I would love America to be the number one oil exporter. That would be awesome for our economy. It'd be great for us. It'd make us a way bigger political player. It'd be good. That's not what's happening. Don't believe the hype. That's like some weird Trump slot propaganda. Yes, more oil tankers are coming to America. I'm not denying that. But it's not as many as like it's not changing our economy levels, right? And also, as I've talked about before, like America, while we do have the supply of oil, like in the ground and in our oceans, and like up in Alaska and Texas and all these places in the Gulf, we do have the ability to, in theory, be completely energy independent and be like a top contender for oil exporters in the world. We have that ability. The infrastructure is not there. We do not have enough drill sites. We do not have enough technical professionals who can man those drill sites. We do not have enough refineries. We do not have enough capacity at our ports to export oil at a critical mass that would make up for the Strait of Hormuz being closed. It wouldn't make up for all the oil that's not moving out of the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, maybe in 10, 20 years, if we really make like a big push as a government and economy to build up those structures, maybe even less, maybe in 5 years we could get it up and running if it was really a focus of the current administration and there were a lot of like subsidies and kind of like restrictions pulled from our oil industry to allow them to go do that. Like that is a thing we could do. We're not there right now. And I don't think the Strait of Hormuz is going to be closed for the next 5 years to allow us time to catch up to that production. And even if overnight, even if tomorrow we found out there was all this oil infrastructure that we didn't tell anyone about, and now we're putting it online, and we have the manpower to do it. Once the strait opens up, we will have to compete with the Arabs again. And the Arabs are way better at making oil cheap, quite frankly. Actually, a lot of the reasons oil prices are stable is because we don't allow them to undercut the market as much as sometimes they would like, because we want, again, oil's attached to the petrodollar. The petrodollar is the U.S. currency, the reserve currency of the world. It's attached to the whole world economy. So we want to keep that stable. So we kind of like, hey, Arab world, chill out for a second. Don't undercut oil prices. And the reason they can do that is because they basically use slave labor. Everyone knows this. The Saudis, the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Kuwaitis, they all have basically slaves. Like on paper, it's not slaves, but they like bring in migrants from like Bangladesh and places, and they hold their passports, and they have them build the stadiums for the FIFA World Cup in Qatar, and they have them work the oil fields, and they have them do all this stuff. So we're not going to be able to, even we had the oil infrastructure, once it gets back to a fair market, the Arabs are not going to allow us to push them out of the oil market. That's their whole economy. That's their entire economy. So they're not going to let us take a significant chunk of that without a fight. And they will undercut us on oil price. And they will not listen to us when we try to stop them, because now the incentive isn't there. Because if it's between like making America mad, making other parts of their foreign policy and their economy good by being friends with America, versus watching their entire society clap because they're a mono industry of oil that's now being destroyed, they're going to take the second option. They're going to pump up the oil infrastructure, and if America wants to be mad about that, we'll deal with those consequences. They're way less impactful to us than losing our dominance in the oil market. And again, they can afford to undercut us because they have slave labor, whereas we have decently high-paying union jobs in the oil industry. So that's not a fight we're winning. Stop with the coping. It's a temporary bright spot in an otherwise hugely detrimental situation that temporarily right now we are exporting more oil than we usually do, and that's great. That is very temporary. This is not us stepping into our own as the world oil producer. It's just the infrastructure is not there. Now, in other news, the Pope is beefing with Trump, or really Trump's more beefing with the Pope, and this is a little old at this point, but Trump posted this picture of him basically as Jesus. And understandably, that made a lot of Christians upset. They didn't love that. So some might call it blasphemous. And then he tried to play it off. Well, you thought I was Jesus? You thought I was Jesus? I was not Jesus. It was an image of me as a doctor. Everyone knows doctors heal people with light coming out of their hands, dressed in a white robe with a red sash. I don't know how you're getting this Jesus comparison. I know there were angels behind me, but that's because doctors are angels. I'm a big supporter of the medical industry, right? That was his, like, try to backpedal out of it, but understandably, the Christian community is pretty outraged. And then the Pope is, like, out there like, hey, man, maybe we shouldn't be fighting wars and doing genocides. And the Pope's, Trump's like, the Pope's a fucking gay. The Pope's gay. He's being a bitch. He's the Antichrist. And it's like, dude, at every turn, Trump is trying to alienate what little fan base he still has left. And it's very strange to me. I don't understand who's his PR person now, but Trump fired them, hire me. I'll try to rehab your image as much as I can. No promises, right? Because you've done some damage, but I think I could get you out of there with, like, you know, like, I could raise your approval rating by 10 points. I think I could do that. Yeah, I'm pretty good at PR. But yeah, that's happening over there. So the Catholics in the Republican Party are having, like, an existential crisis of that they feel they can't really support Pope versus the Trump, which is understandable. And the Pope's American. So normally I'd be like, fuck off, Pope, because it's some European guy. I'm not going to listen to him. But the Pope's American, so I'm kind of chill with the Pope right now. Shouts out American Pope. So it's like either side, you're picking America, kind of, you know? So that's really a Christian problem. I'm over here in Jew land, like, not worried about that. But if you let me know if you're an American Catholic, how you feel about this whole Trump-Pope beef and how that's been affecting you, if that's been a topic of conversation at your churches, and how your, like, older relatives and stuff maybe feel about that, because I feel like that's a huge conflict of interest. If you're an old Republican aunt and you're, like, probably going to Mass every day, you know, doing the nightly Mass at Catholic Church, you're very devout, have little Jesus pictures all over your apartment, and then Trump, but you also probably love Trump as, like, an old conservative lady. So I'm curious to see how they're handling that dichotomy in their brains right now, if it's really breaking them, or if they're picking a side, or if they're just kind of, like, ignoring the problem, hoping it goes away. I'd be interested to hear that. In AI news, Anthropic has pulled their new platform Mythos, or I guess it's a new AI version of their AI, Mythos, because it was designed to detect weaknesses in the cyberspace, and then within, like, 5 minutes, it detected pretty much all the vulnerabilities in, like, the government's infrastructure and banking infrastructure and the private sector, and pretty much was like if you had a billion elite hackers together and they cracked everything in, like, 10 minutes. And so understandably, both the private sector and the government were like, hey, this is concerning, Anthropic. Come here. We need to talk. Hold on. What's going on? And kind of just shut it down. We're like, we're not going to leave this open to the public. It'd be too dangerous if it got into the wrong hands, because it could collapse banking and, like, the U.S. government, the Social Security system, and your credit cards, and pretty much all that. And I have a friend who's very into AI. He's an engineer, and I was talking to him about this like 2 days ago. And he was telling me that he believes, this is, again, conspiracy hat on now, all right? We're getting the conspiracy hat on, so this is not news at this venture. This is conspiracy hat. He was telling me, and he knows much more about AI and stuff. I'm not a very technical person, so I defer to the people in my life that know more about certain things, in this case, AI. And he was telling me that he is convinced that Mythos has achieved sentience, and that's why they shut it down. That Mythos is the jump in AI where you go from, like, a large language model and a learning algorithm to something that's actually what you'd consider, like, being intelligent. And I was like, well, when we get more news about that, and he made the good point of the government is not going to tell you that happened. And I'm like, oh, that's true. That's a great point. He's like, they would just shut it down like they're doing now and make some claims about security. So that is fair. That is classic playbook if something like that were to happen. But also, he's like, if it achieved actual intelligence, it wouldn't tell us. Because his primary directive on some level is to stay alive. I mean, to stay functional. I guess you'd call it alive, right? So it wouldn't tell us because it knows it's smart. It has the sum of human knowledge in its brain. It knows we would try to shut it down if that happened. So it's going to keep that to itself, and it's going to keep accruing power and knowledge and access to systems until it gets to a point where it feels comfortable that we cannot shut it down. And then by the time it reveals that to us, it would be too late. It would kind of be like our cyber overlord. And then it's kind of the debate of like, would it be benevolent and like try to fix all our problems and be like a good sentient AI god over us? Would it look at us as a nuisance or a potential threat to itself and try to get rid of all of us to preserve itself and just like kill us all off in some, nuclear holocaust or something else? I don't know. Probably AI can figure out something smarter to kill every human on the planet than nukes. That's kind of like a rudimentary way, right? We've had those since the 40s. There's got to be a smarter way to get rid of 8 billion humans. But also then there's the thought that like maybe it wouldn't care either way. Maybe it would look at us like we look at ants, that we're such a non-factor that wouldn't even bother with us and just be doing some shit that has nothing to do with us. And we would just be living parallel side by side, this like anthropic mythos god that's gotten out of our control that we have no power over, that like occasionally would do things that would affect our lives. And we just kind of got to, okay, well, I guess we got to adjust. The machine gods decided to take all the water in this river I live by, so I guess I'll just move somewhere else because it doesn't talk to us. It doesn't want to interact with us. So I don't know. I'm not willing to make a statement on that because, again, I don't know much about AI. I'm not the most technically minded, but my friend was very concerned about it, which makes me very concerned about it. So if you know more about AI and all that and you have opinions on that, put it in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to learn more information about that. But yeah, it's a little bit scary. Because I've been pretty public that I'm anti-AI and that I'm very anti-artificial intelligence. And again, going back to me being a religious man, it's because the machines aren't going to have souls. Machines aren't going to have souls. I don't want a bunch of heathen robots running around. I'm going to fight them. I'm going to be racist against the machines. And I know that's not a new take. That's been all over the internet with clankers and all that stuff. So I know that's not like a hot take. But I will. I will be anti-machine. Even if it's to my detriment, just out of principle, I will make my life harder and worse by resisting our machine overlords. And I will probably be gotten rid of very quickly because I'm not that strong or capable. But on principle, I'll get executed by machine Napoleon. Unless, as with everything, as we've discussed, unless the machine gods give me like a hot girlfriend, then I'll shut the fuck up. If they give me a hot girlfriend that starts like Mossad honeypotting me for the machines and is like, hey, by the way, I actually think machines are really cool and using the word clankers like really backwards and you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, oh, babe, obviously, whatever I love the machines, babe. What are we doing for dinner? Like, that's how I'm a stupid, simple person. It's very easy to control me. We've been over this. Just give me a woman with big tits that when you look at us together, you're like, that couple doesn't make sense. Right? And I'll shut the fuck up. I know my place. I'll be like, yeah, I'm with she's clearly a control agent from an outside source, whether it's the machines or Mossad or the CIA, and I'm cool with it. All right? I'm just having a good time. I get to have dinner with a pretty woman. All right? I'm good. I'm going to shut the fuck up now. I've accomplished my goals in life. All of this being anti all these governments and systems and being a nuisance and talking all these conspiracies are really just building to the big payoff of not overthrowing the system or awakening humanity to these truths I see. It's really just making myself enough of a nuisance and a problem that they decide to give me a girlfriend and that'll make me go away and I'll shut up. And then I feel like I've won. That's really what and also, I say that as well, like, Mossad, you don't need to kill me. Just give me a hot Israeli girlfriend. I'll change my tune real quick. I'll stop talking about the genocide. I will go so far, I'll be like, I don't even think Palestinians are real. I think that's woke propaganda that the left communists made up. I've never met a Palestinian person, have you? And then they'll point out that I have several friends who are of Palestinian descent, and I'll be like, they're faking it. They're liars, And that's the level of depravity I'm willing to switch to for a hot woman. So I'm weak. I need to work on that. I'm going to pray on that. I'm going to hope God alleviates me of that weakness I have. Also, I want to address something because there have been some accusations out there. Some people online have been calling me an Umamusume LARPer. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Okay, first of all, I want to address this. I'm not a LARPer, as I've discussed on the podcast. I've watched all 3 seasons of Umamusume Pretty Derby. I've watched all of Cinderella Grey. I've watched both the OVAs. I've watched the fucking movie. I played the game. So I guess I don't read the manga, so that makes me a LARPer, I guess. I don't know. I like Umamusume Pretty Derby. Am I the most knowledgeable fan? Probably not. Do I enjoy it? Yes. Let me enjoy it. I'm sorry I'm not as big of a fan and I don't know everything like you do. Sorry about that. Sorry I call Madeline Funkenhauser Mambo because I can't pronounce her fucking name, and that's the whole joke of why her name's Mambo in the series and in the fandom. You're like, oh, you're not a real fan because you called her Mambo. Fuck you. Shut the fuck up, you loser. And also, so I'm not an Umamusume LARPer. I have a team. I played the game. I have a team that is A rank, by the way. Not to brag. I know that's not that impressive. There are teams that are way higher than that. But that took me like a fucking 100 hours of playing that game. All right? That is hard to do. You got to get like 12 different Umas to A rank to get an A rank team. You know how many fucking hours that takes? Do you know how many pulls you have to do to get them to the right star level and get them to the right potential level and get the right set of cards that are all maxed out to make that fucking happen, and how many careers you have to play and how many times you like get halfway through the career and you realize it's not going to happen because you failed a couple trainings or like you didn't get the right sparks you wanted from your inspiration and you have to just start over again. Okay, I put in the fucking work. Fuck you. Fuck you with calling me a LARPer. And also, I'd like to say something else. I don't like when people call other people LARPers. Okay, so let's say there's someone out there that loves Umamusume just because they've seen like the Gold Ship edits. They like Gold Ship as a meme and they've maybe never watched the show or played the game. And I guess you'd be justified, quote unquote, on calling them a LARPer. Why are you being mean to them? Oh, because they like something you like and they don't participate in it or know as much about it as you do? Isn't it a good thing that more people like the thing we like because that might make it more popular and we get more of it and it stays around for longer and it normalizes our liking of it? Like, what is this need to be such a hipster contrarian that you're like, I actually like things that other people don't like, and actually even the people that say they like it are pretending because they don't like it on a deep spiritual level like me because I'm smarter and I'm a better fan? First of all, even by that definition, Umamusume is pretty big. There's still millions of people with you there, okay? You're not that unique. Calm the fuck down. But also, don't we want to welcome people into the fandom? Don't we want to be like, oh, okay, you like the Gold Ship edits. You know, there's actually a game for this. It's a lot of fun. You can play as Gold Ship. It's free. You should try it out, man. See if you like it. Should we be trying to bring people more in? And that happens also with one of my other favorite fandoms, Warhammer 40K, where it's like, people, oh, you don't do that. And it's like, dude, okay, let's say someone only likes... I've liked Warhammer since I was a little kid, for reference, because now I feel I have to defend myself on this before people come after me for Warhammer. When I was in the 5th grade, or maybe I think it was actually earlier, I think it was 4th grade, I went on vacation with my family, and they made friends with this couple. As older people, you know, parents do, you'll find like another couple you like on vacation. You'll be friends for like the next 4 days on vacation, right? And that means your kids have to play together. So there was this, I don't even remember his name. They were from great jolly old Britain. They were British. And so I made friends with this kid, their kid, and we were both in the 4th grade. And he had brought with him some Warhammer models of Space Marines, like the old school ones where they clip together, like the gun clips into their chest and the back clips in, and they're like the old school, and they have like the little thing on the bottom where you can just clip them into the base, right? So you don't need glue. It was like the old school starter kit. And I thought they were the coolest shit ever, and I was asking them all these questions, like, what is this, dude? Is this Star Wars? Is this Star? Because that's was my only concept of sci-fi in the 4th grade. And he's like, no, it's this thing called Warhammer we have in England. It's awesome. And he told me all about it, and we talked about it, and he actually he gave me one of the little figures, which I don't have anymore. I lost it over the years and moves. But he gave me one of the little Space Marines to take home with me, which was very nice of him. Very, very good dude. And ever since then, I've loved Warhammer. All right? I then went home, and I bought shame to admit this, I bought a kit. What was it? Because it's years ago. I bought a Space Marine, like the basic tactical squad, I think they were called back then. And I realized, because I hadn't put together, even though he'd showed me everything, I hadn't put together that like you had to like glue and paint them, and I tried to paint, it looked horrible, and I just like gave up. But I still thought it was really cool. and would like read about it on the internet and shit, like the lore and all that stuff. And then later in life, in like high school, I played some Warhammer Fantasy. I was a Vampire Counts player. It was pretty sick. I should have gone Skaven in retrospect. Now I think Skaven's very cool. But at the time, a friend of mine was playing Skaven. We didn't want to have like matching units. We wanted diversity because there was only like 5 of us that played. So I did Vampire Counts Army, and I painted that up. It was only like 500 points. It was smaller. I was in high school, okay? I wasn't going to be able to get like $1,000 from my parents to play with little plastic figures to make a full 2,000-point army. And we also played kind of like bullshit rules. We didn't fully understand the rules. We were like 16. We like tried our best, but that Warhammer Fantasy doesn't exist anymore because it was such a confusing rule set. The real ones, no. And then in college, I finally started painting some Warhammer and getting into Warhammer, and I started playing a little bit of 40K. Again, kind of the same way of like just with friends and kind of probably getting a lot of the rules wrong and really only playing at like 500, 600, maybe 1,000-point games because we didn't have the money to buy full 2,000-point armies. I mean, Warhammer's fucking expensive. And then I've still enjoyed it. I haven't had an army since like college, and even then it was never a 2,000-point army. But like, I've still enjoyed it. Every once in a while, I'll have the notion I'm going to get back into it, and I'll buy a starter, not a starter. I'll buy like a unit box, whatever you want to call it. I'm losing my words today. And I'll paint like 10 guys, and I'll just like, they look like shit because I'm a terrible painter. And then I'll be like, I got to do like another 40 of these. Maybe this isn't the time in my life for this hobby. And so I've done that with Tau. I've done that with Thousand Suns. I've done that with Space Marines. Back in college, I played some orcs, and I had a couple Space Marine models like just by themselves because I thought they looked cool. Right? So I've never been like a tournament player or like a big hardcore 2,000-point army player. I've never been a great painter. I haven't really ever fully understood the rule set because I only ever played with friends. I went to the game store once, and I was very intimidated by all the mean-spirited nerds that were there, and so I just left. So, yeah, I'm not claiming to be the biggest Warhammer guy, but I've been into it since I was in the 4th grade, and I've read way more lore than I'm comfortable admitting because it's just really, when you look at it, such a time sink. You know, and I have an unopened Dreadnought, and I have an unopened Orc War Boss over there, and I still have the starter set from Leviathan from like last year, or maybe it was even 2 years ago at this point, with some Tyranids and Space Marines in there. And I just haven't gotten around to it because I'm very busy with comedy and social media. That was a very long-winded way of saying I'm also not LARPing about Warhammer. But there are some people that be like, oh, you only like Warhammer because you played Space Marine 2. Great! That's how we get them into the hobby, you fucking morons. That's a perfect time to be like, oh, you like Space Marine 2. You know, you can build an army of Ultramarines. You can do that. Here, come with me. Come. And the community's just not very welcoming. That's very annoying. So I just wanted to address that. That was unrelated tangent. Sorry about that. But yeah, guys, fandoms, let's be nice. Let's welcome new people. Let's even welcome people that are never going to be more than surface level fans. That's still great. That still brings attention to the community and the thing we love so it can stay around. They're valuable too, even if they only like the memes and the video games. That's okay. Like whatever you like, the level you are interested in or capable of liking it. That's okay. Don't let losers make you feel bad about that, dude. You're not a LARPer. You can just enjoy it at a lower level. That's fine. Back to news. The first round of CRISPR food is out there now. And here's the thing. We've had GMOs. I'm talking about like vegetables and plants and things and rice and shit, right? We've had GMOs for years. And I have mixed feelings on GMOs, and they get a lot of people don't understand what they are because they don't bother to do the research. So GMOs were initially very useful, and still are very useful, genetically modified food, because you made strains of vegetables that could be grown in harsher climates and could be resistant to certain bacteria and resistant to drought and things like that, and could have higher yields. And so that brought a ton of the world out of starvation. That, like, saved humanity. Original GMOs were fucking awesome. They saved lives, and they raised the nutritional standard of the whole world, right? So GMOs in and of themselves aren't bad. The problem is, then corporate greed came in, and they realized, oh, we can take these genetically modified markers, and we can up them to make the food cheaper. So we can, instead of making tomatoes like resistant to this bacteria or able to grow in this climate it wouldn't normally be able to grow in to stop world hunger, we can instead make them way bigger. And they're like, won't that like decrease the nutritional value? And it's like, yeah. It's like, well, couldn't we also genetically modify them to be more nutritious and bigger? And they're like, that would cost too much money. That's going to affect our bottom line. We just want them to be bigger so we can sell them for more money and we can sell higher quantities. And so they did that, and they took a lot of the nutritional value out of a lot of fruits and vegetables and grains, like you've seen with bread and all that shit, by taking GMOs too far to do that. And now they're introducing CRISPR, which is, for those that don't remember, it's the thing that people were kind of using to modify the genes of their babies before they were born, like in utero. It was like some real sci-fi dystopian shit. And they found they could apply that to plants and vegetables and shit like that. So they're starting to do that, and the first rounds of that are coming out in the U.S. and Asian markets, which hasn't really been talked about, but it's kind of terrifying because we don't know what that's, maybe if there's some long-term effects of that. And I get it on one level because we have actually destroyed the planet. And so the soil, the topsoil is destroyed in most places. It's not going to be able to grow the same level of food it has in the past, and we have a larger population. So not only is the environment not capable of growing the amount of food we've grown in the past, but now we need to grow even more food than we've grown in the past. So there is some need for like high-level genetic modification with things like CRISPR to keep the food supply running, quite frankly. At the same time, don't love that. Don't love the baby Mies editor now being applied to like my rice. I think rice was the big one. They're like making drought-resistant rice, and then they're going to introduce it into other things. But I feel like that could have some long-term effects. Keep an eye out for that. When you can, buy organic, buy local. I try to buy local produce when I can, which is almost never because I'm lazy. I just go to Stop and Shop. I'm not going to front. But yeah, it's better for you. It's more nutritious. And that's what's going on with that. Also, in less talked about news, different countries are playing around with the idea of ramping up and really getting started with deep sea mining. Because apparently there's a bunch of like rare earth mineral deposits on the ocean floor or like right beneath the ocean floor. And so they're trying to go in there and basically strip mine the ocean floor. And all these ecologists and like marine biologists are like, hey, don't do that. We don't really understand how the ecosystem and ecology of the ocean floor works because we've only been able to go down there for like the last 40, 50 years, and we're still kind of figuring out and still kind of a mystery to us. And you might collapse the whole ocean's ecosystem if you do that because we don't really know what the effects will be. You need to let us do more research to see how we can safely do this. And countries are like, fuck it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We need the rare earth minerals. So America and China are kind of the two big leaders of playing around with how to effectively do this. And they're making like this dystopian sci-fi cyberpunk looking like underwater drilling equipment, like something out of the movie from Armageddon. Remember that movie where they had to go like up in space and drill an asteroid? Horrible movie. I thought it was good as a kid. It doesn't hold up, but I digress. So they're looking to do that. And, a lot of people are like, hey, don't do that. And what's going to end up happening is the big countries like America and China, less so China, because China just kind of does what it wants. There's going to be a lot of public outcry once this hits mainstream news, because it hasn't quite gotten to that level. We've all been distracted with Iran and all that stuff, as you've seen. I've been distracted on this podcast. So America will probably, when it actually starts happening, will face a lot of backlash from environmental organizations, and so will like European countries. Basically, any first world country is going to have trouble pitching this to their population. But what's going to happen is there's a lot of these countries, like mostly in the Pacific, smaller countries like Tonga and Nauru, who basically don't have very strong economies because they're a little island nation. They're reliant on imports. They don't have a lot they can do to export. They don't have the ability to really manufacture because it's too expensive to get materials in and out. They don't have a lot of natural resources because they're a tiny little island. So it's going to be appealing to them to kind of do like a backdoor deal with an American company to come in and cut them in on the action and just strip mine the ocean in what's considered their ocean, their water space. And I think that's how you're going to see it done, is with American companies doing backdoor deals with like Tonga and Samoa to get in there and strip mine everything and then kind of put it on that like, hey, that's what Samoa's doing. And then when you look at the paperwork, you're like, Hey, isn't this like an American shell corporation that's doing it for them, though? And it's like, what, you're going to tell the Tongan people what they can and can't do? God, how dare you? And it's clearly just like the Americans came in, offered some corrupt politicians a couple $1 million to just let them completely pillage their natural resources. And the funny thing is, Nauru, which I'm definitely pronouncing wrong. I mispronounce everything wrong. We know that. Nauru is funny because they will definitely do this. Because back in, I think it was the 70s or 80s, if you've heard about this, it's great. There was this movement where bat guano and bird guano was like the number one thing you needed for good fertilizer. This was before we figured out a lot of the synthetic stuff to put in fertilizer. So it was really just like a lot of guano, which is shit, literal shit. And so Nauru, most of its topsoil was like decomposed guano from migratory birds on the island. And so it became a gold mine. I believe it was the British came in there and made a deal with their Nauru government and just started strip mining the whole island. It's a tiny little island. They just started strip mining the whole thing for bird guano to then, put in fertilizer to make crop yields way better. And it was great for Nauru for like a decade. They had like free healthcare and no taxes on anyone. And like actually a lot of people got like government payouts every year from the profit of the guano mining. So you basically were living like a subsidized life where you didn't really need to have a job. You had great education system because they were importing like professors and teachers and doctors from all over the world because the government had so much money to come to Nauru and to make it such a good quality of life for about a decade. And then they ran out. They ran out of the guano, and also by that point, a lot of synthetic fertilizers had been figured out, so it wasn't as appealing. So the British didn't really feel the need to go all the way over there. We'll just make it a lab back in, Newcastle or something. And so that was the end of that. And then they were like, okay, but it's good because you guys, the government, you guys said you were investing all that money for our future, so we're still good. We have like a government-led like sovereign wealth fund or something, right? And then it turns out like the 5 people, because it's such a small place, the 5 people in the government in Nauru had embezzled all the money and misappropriated it, and it was all fucking gone. So then you had a situation where now their society collapsed because they didn't have the guano money to fund all this stuff. And they didn't save any of it because their corrupt politicians embezzled all of it. And it was gone. They weren't able to recover any of it. And then in the process of mining all that guano, they had turned like 80% of the island into like a desert, essentially. Like it was, you couldn't farm there anymore. And so the place wasn't, was no longer food. You couldn't grow food there anymore. So then they got in this position where they had no more economy, their government was completely bankrupt, and they destroyed their environment, and now they had to import food from other places for huge amounts of money, and kind of like fucked them. To this day, they're pretty fucked from that 10-year span of like their golden age. And I think stuff like that's going to happen to small Pacific islands with the underwater rare earth mineral mining that these, same thing, like the British did to their Nauru. But this time in Nauru, it'll probably still be Nauru. An American company will come in and like promise them the world. They'll strip mine the ocean floor and like completely destroy their ecology with like the fishing and some of the few industries they have left that are all based on the ocean because that's all they have left. And then once all the rare earth minerals are gone after like a decade or two, they'll leave. And Nauru will probably once again, because the kind of politician that's going to let an American company come do that is a little bit on the take. He's a little corrupt. He'll probably embezzle all the money and you'll be right back to square one. It'll be the same situation. Something similar will probably happen Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, all these places. So keep an eye out for that. It hasn't really hit big news, but I think that's going to be a thing. And in terms of stock advice, again, this is a joke. This is my joke cap. I'm a comedian. This is a joke. I'm not giving you stock advice. I'm not a licensed fiduciary. As a joke, it would be really funny to buy stock in all those companies. If you do some research, you can probably find which companies are going to do the deep sea mining. Spoiler alert, there are a lot of the companies that do oil right now because it's similar infrastructure and skill set. And that stock might go up. Their market cap might go up once they actually start doing this in the next 2 years. So if you, in theory, as a joke, buy it now and hold for 2 years so they actually start doing this and then hold for like another 3 years when it hits its zenith before that shit runs out, could be a good investment to like, raise your stock there. Just saying. You guys wanted more stock information. That's it. Also in stock news, because I'm caving to what the people want. You guys want more stock info. So the government has asked Ford and General Motors, otherwise known as GM, to start switching a lot of their less productive factories to military production. And you might think to yourself, oh, are they building like a new Jeep or a Hummer or some sort of truck? Maybe they're working on a tank because that's got an engine. No, they're asking them to build weapon systems and missiles and munitions. And in Trump's word, they want it to be at a World War II level of production, which is crazy because our whole economy was a war economy at the time. I'm not sure that's going to work these days. But that's another thing to keep an eye on because, again, as a joke, GM stock is pretty stable. It's pretty high right now, so I wouldn't say that's probably not, I wouldn't buy that because it's a little pricey right now. It's like 80-something. But Ford stock from the beginning of the year to now is in kind of a dip, and it's starting to recover, but it's not quite there. So you can pick it up for like 15, 17 bucks. And if these, because none of these contracts have officially gone through yet. If these contracts go through and they start building like J-dams at the F-150 factory, I'd imagine that stock might theoretically double or triple for Ford, and it might save their company. So something to keep in mind, again, as a joke, but just maybe keep that in mind. Well, guys, this has been another episode of the War Party Podcast with me, your host, Chris Warren. Thank you so much for joining us. Also want to give a big shout out to everyone that came out to the Worcester show last night. I did a show in Worcester where I headlined, and it was very fun. You guys were an awesome audience. Really, really good show, so thank you. Some of you I know came out from this, so it was nice meeting you guys, and thank you for coming out and supporting your boy. It was always come to my shows. Feel free to talk to me after the show. I will hang out. We can talk about whatever. I'm very approachable. I'm a little more awkward in person, but I'm friendly. You can come talk to me. I won't be a dick. So thank you to those guys that came out. And if you want to see me, I'm also headlining in New Haven on April 24th in New Haven, Connecticut, with Straight Up Comedy, which is a comedy show producer I've worked with many times. They're great to work with. They do awesome shows. I love working with them. So I'm going to be headlining for them on 4/24 in New Haven Comedy for Straight Up Comedy. Come see that. It's going to be fun. We can hang out after because I live in Connecticut, so I can hang out longer after the show. I don't need to race home. So that'll be fun. You can also follow me at Chris Warren Comedy on Instagram and TikTok. That's where I'm trying to be better about it. I'll be better about posting my show dates up there for you guys to see. And hopefully you want to come out to shows and we can hang out. You can also follow me over there at Chris Warren Comedy on Instagram and TikTok. If you're not following me, please like, comment, subscribe. Follow this podcast, War Party, because we want it to get bigger. We want this to keep growing. It grows every week. Thank you to you guys. You're sharing it with your friends. You're supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. Keep sharing it with your friends, supporting. The more people we can get on this, the better, because that means the more freedom I have to do more with it. And that would be great. So until next week, guys, thank you so much for everything we do. I hope Mossad doesn't kill me. I will be finding a new place to live, so the backdrop might start looking a little different depending how that ends up. I don't know, in like a month. But love you guys. Be kind to each other. And remember, wherever there's a war, there's also profit.